I was wondering this morning what I should say to you today as I depart from the faculty of San Diego State. I didn't want to get technical. We can't get technical. We have gotten technical, but I know many of you are not hydraulicians or hydrologic engineers. So I'm just going to share with you a story, which is a good story. I was the only one to interview Vic Mockus alive, while he was alive. So who is Vic Mockus? Vic Mockus is a developer of the runoff curve number, a design method which is used in hydrology and hydraulics all over the world. 1954 was the date of publication of the runoff curve number, and it was largely Vic Mockus who did it. Other people participated, but most people, particularly in NEH4 and 680, I believe, the manuals of the Soil Conservation Service, now called Natural Resources Conservation Services, 1996, I believe, credited Mockus with his development. So, fast forward. In 1993, I guess participating at a conference in Denver, and over coffee, one of the people invited to participate in the conference was my friend and colleague, Pete Hawkins, professor of hydrology at the University of Arizona. So we met at coffee, and it occurred to me that Pete had written many papers on the curve number. So he was knowledgeable. He was probably the best person knowledgeable on the curve number in the United States. And I thought very pompously that I had written a lot of papers by 1996, I had at least 20 or 30 papers on record, journal papers. So I met over coffee, I said, with Pete, and I said, Pete, you've written a lot of papers on the curve numbers, you're obviously knowledgeable, everybody acknowledges that. And I myself can write papers, I've proven that to be the case. So why don't you and I get together and write a review paper on the curve number? Ponce, he said, that's a great idea. And we pursued it. For the next couple of years, 1994, 1995, we wrote the paper. And I must credit Pete at this point, of all the co-authors that I've had, and been many out there, he was the most active and the most pain in the neck, so to speak. In other words, I was doing the writing and he was echoing what I had said to make sure that it was all correct. Because he had the knowledge. I had the writing skill and he had the knowledge skill. So we made a good couple there. So it took us, I think it was 2 years, back and forth between San Diego and Arizona. And we finally produced the paper, which was called Runoff Curve Number. Has it reached maturity? I repeat, runoff curve number. Has it reached maturity? Meaning, is it mature enough now? I should tell you at this point that my original title was Mature or Old. Because a lot of people say the runoff curve number is old. Okay? But I was wrong at that time in my perception. So Pete felt that has it reached maturity, like a question, was a better title. So we agreed on that. So in 1996, in the maiden issue of the Journal of Hydrologic Engineering, ASCE, our paper was published. And it became popular and very famous. Why? Because it was a review paper. The review paper is not supposed to be very scientific. It's supposed to be telling the story of how things develop. But for those people that look down on review papers, let me say that they are the ones that are better read. There are a larger quantity of people that read the review papers because they're light. And not everybody wants to read a paper that they cannot or will not understand without a whole lot of work. Okay, so this paper was read and has been read by a whole lot of people. And as a matter of fact, of all the papers that I have written, and I think I said earlier there was about 50 papers, if you look at the Google citation, the top paper is that. I think 1,300 citations of this particular paper that I wrote with Pete Hawkins. So, needless to say, it's very well read, very much accepted paper, recognized paper, actually all over the world. That's the story of how we put together the paper. But then after the paper comes a period where you get discussions and a closure. So we had 3 discussions. 2 of them were kind of neutral. congratulating the work and so on and so forth. And there was one discussion, there was a little bit, I should say, negative, perhaps negative is not the word. Not totally critical, not totally agreeing with what we had said, and I don't want to go into details. You can go back to the literature and find out what was said at that time. So I felt that I was just reviewing the whole thing and I had not developed a method. So I called a friend of mine, Don Woodward, who was at the time National Hydrologic Engineer in Washington, D.C. And I said, Don, I knew Don from prior experience. I said, Don, I received some criticism on this paper by the discussions. And I want to meet Vic Mockus and interview him and find out the real story on the method. And he said, Ponce, good luck. With that tone, good luck. I said, really? Why? I was surprised. I was really surprised. Not being from there, being in San Diego, not in Washington. I said, why? He said, Vic retired 20 years ago, he's not talking to us. He didn't say what I implied that, why would he talk to you, right? He's not talking to us, why would he talk to you? I said, it's worth a try. I said, he said, oh, okay, be my guest, sure. It'll be good if you actually complete the interview. So I did become a detective and found out where Vic lived within the, what do you call it, the Washington Beltway. Thank you. The Beltway. So I found him. He actually lived in Maryland part of the Beltway. Fortunately, there are not that many Vic Mockuses around. Mockus turns out to be a last name changed in the U.S., but originally from Lithuania. Lithuania, right. Vervilla knows that because he's originally from, your ancestry is from there too, Lithuania. So I found that out later though. At the end of the interview, I asked him, I said, I'm ethnic and I would like you to tell me if you can tell me what original word are you? And he says Lithuania. Okay, so Mockus was from Lithuania. So I said, Mr. Mockus, I was on the phone, remember, in San Diego, and he was out there in the Beltway, inside the Beltway. I said, you know, I am Professor Ponce, Victor Ponce. I wrote a paper on your method, and I live in California, San Diego State University, and if I move in the wrong direction, I'm going to fall into the ocean. I said like that. He said, oh, meaning, I meant to say, I'm very far from where you were. He says, oh, how about that? He must have felt that my comment was an interesting comment because I said, I would like to interview you because I've written a paper, people are critical, and so on and so forth. I want to get into details as to why are they critical, but they were critical. I convinced him somehow. I found his weak spot. I don't know which one was it, but he said, you can come tomorrow. So sure enough, the next day I was there, knocked on his door, he opened up, he was an old man. At the time he was 83, older than what I am right now. And I answered my questions. It was about a little bit less than 2 hours. It's all on the record, by the way. I wrote everything they had said down. I should mention to you at this point that the interview was a little bit biased because the interviewer asked the questions. And he asked the questions that he wants to ask, right? So the interview was biased. But it is the only interview existing of this gentleman. Very important person in our field, hydraulic engineering, hydrologic engineering. Nobody was able to talk to him until that day. So he granted me the interview, I wrote it down, and I said, thank you very much, and I left. Like I said, the last thing I asked him was, where is the origin of your name? He said, Lithuania. So I went home, sat on the thing for a couple of years. This was 1996, July 12th. I remember that day very clearly. And I said, I'm going to sit on this. It's an important document. And I sat on it for 3 years. In 1999, I joined the web, effectively and efficiently. I decided that it had been several years since the web was on. As you guys know, the web came about in 1994. So it took me 5 years to join the web. But I finally decided I was going to do it. I was helped by Chris Paolini, whom I know many of you remember. Chris was the best guy to be at that time at the right place. So he helped me out to put myself on the web in 1999. And one of the first documents that I put on the web was this particular notes of my interview with Vic Mockus on the web, online. Anybody could read it. 6 months later, guess who called me? Don Woodward from Washington. And he said, Ponce. Everybody called me Ponce. Okay, I don't know why. Ponce, I noticed that you did do the interview. I said, sure. I mean, that is the proof. He said, congratulations, nobody has ever done that. I don't know how you did it, but you did it, obviously. So I want your permission to publish in-house this document because it's important for us and so forth. I said, okay, fine, go ahead. Oh, what was I going to say? It's public information anyway. It was already online for three years. So he published it within their local Natural Resources Conservation Service, the document and so forth, and I began to receive a lot of accolades over the years. I mean, we're talking 1999, it's been 24 years, but I have received a lot of accolades for just doing that piece of interview with Vic Mockus. So that's basically the end of the story, and I'm going to tell you that over the years people have said, when they met me personally, in the various conferences I have attended, mostly in South America. I am from Lima, Peru, and they look at my name badge, and they go like this, Ponce, Victor Ponce, you're the one who interviewed Vic Mockus. Yes, I am the one. You're looking at it. So that's the story I have for you at the end of my career here, or close to the end of my career here at San Diego State. It's been a very great ride, fantastic, very productive, always accompanied by and encouraged by my wife. I did finish it, 52 years. Jenny, and so it's been great, and I look forward for interacting with any of you that still wants to interact with me, because I know that there's a stage, and I am at the stage now where I should step out, I guess you could say step to the side, and let you all, younger people, and very young people, including a colleague here, continue the work of making San Diego State great.